Okay, so there's 3 of them floating around. There's one like this, and there's the 2 that are just the sagittal views. You'll find the salivary glands by the ear and under the jaw. Those are the 2 we're focusing on. The one under the jaw, submaxillary, right, or submandibular, interchangeable. The one by the ear is the parotid. Now, just kind of note that there are going to be other glands on these. Those are the only 2 that we're asking you to know. Okay, but there are more than that one. I think there's like a sublingual showing on one of them, but just worry about those 2. All right. Okay, so next we're jumping into the pharynx. So like I said, this is kind of redundant to a point. The reason it shows up again for digestive system, though, is because the pharynx is where food travels down before it gets to the esophagus. So you chew food here in the mouth, of course. You swallow it, goes down to the pharynx, and it remains in the pharynx until this point. Okay. Basically, when you swallow, the epiglottis shuts, allowing food to come down through the esophagus. So as soon as it becomes 2 tubes, that's where it stops being pharynx, starts being esophagus. Right, and remember, just anatomically, the esophagus is going to be deep to the trachea. That'll be important on Wednesday when we do the dissection, because we'll have to actually cut the trachea or remove it to the side to see the flattened esophagus underneath it. Now I'm actually going to jump views to a model that we have in our class. So this is the model that we'll have. So as you see, we have all of the respiratory structures down to the larynx and all of the digestive system all the way down, really, from mouth to anus. So here we have the esophagus continuing down to the stomach, and that's where we'll pick up. So with the stomach right here, it's divided into different parts. Right as the esophagus dumps into the stomach, that's the cardiac. So right here is the cardiac. Just if you were to take like a 1-inch line around the esophagus all the way, that's the cardiac. Now you'll notice that it's kind of this C shape, the entire stomach is. So I always think of the cardiac as being like where you put the pen down to start drawing your C, backwards C of course. But the arch of the C, that's going to be where the fundus is. So if you draw a line like right there, from the esophagus over, that bump is the fundus. All right here. Now the body is just going to be the body of the C, essentially. So anywhere in here. And then you can see there's kind of this crease here where we get into the bottom of the C. Right there. This is now the pylorus. So that's the 4th section of the stomach. Now we have the pyloric sphincter, which right here you can see it narrows. Right here, you see that narrowing. Right there at the very end, once it's already narrowed down, that's the pyloric sphincter. So it's basically the very, very last portion of it. Alright, now the rugae I don't have a picture of, but the rugae are going to be inside the stomach. So if you see on these models, this top portion of the stomach pops off, so you can just remove it. The rugae are the folds inside. So if there's a sticker inside, we're asking for the rugae. Alright. We also have models that I've pulled that are in the auditorium that you can see the rugae in also through kind of taking the stomach and cracking it in half. Okay, so now working our way down the digestive system, we get to the small intestine after the stomach. Now the small intestine is broken into 3 parts. The first is the duodenum, the middle is the jejunum, and the end is the ileum. Now I'm going to kind of center in on that. Right here we have our small intestine. Now if I was to just point to a section like this, it's kind of difficult to, with certainty, tell me what portion of the small intestine that is, right? So for simplicity, if I'm going to be asking you guys to tell me where the duodenum is, I'm going to ask it in a place where you can draw a line from the stomach to the duodenum, all right? Now there are ways that you can tell like which section is which. You can just kind of find a diagram and like trace it out, but I just would rather conceptually you guys know where it is in relation to the other digestive system organs. So from here to here, just essentially that first, I think it's like 6 or 8 inches, that's duodenum. If we had a pointer just in the middle and we were asking for the specific portion of the small intestine, that would be jejunum. Now, ileum is the last portion, so of course that's going to be connected to the large intestine at the end. So if we come down to where the large intestine and the small intestine meets, you can see this little, probably close to 6-inch patch of small intestine that you can trace away from the colon. So that would be the ileum. Now if you look inside right here on the ileum, or back up here in the duodenum, you'll see that there are kind of chunks missing on it. And you can see the inside, and inside it's ribbed. That ribbing will be the villi. So if we put a sticker on the villi, we do it there or here. So right here or right here. Yes, Raquel.
Like, how would you ask the question for like the duodenum? Like, would you be what section or what?
Good question. So we could ask you to identify the specific region. You could even wouldn't be unthinkable, knowing especially that each station is going to have 4 questions. We could put a sticker here, ask you to identify the general organ, and ask you to specify which region. All right, good question. All right, so now here we jump into the large intestine. And the large intestine has a few features actually below where the small intestine kicks in. So we're going to talk about these ones first. So now it kind of goes in here, and there's this strange blind pouch backwards from the direction of food flow. This blind pouch is called the cecum. And then this tail coming off of the cecum is the appendix. So large intestine proper starts this way. Okay, this is kind of like the extra features, if you will. So we wouldn't pen, for example, large intestine here, or here, cecum, and appendix. Okay, this is now large intestine. Now, the large intestine can be broken into 3 general parts. The portion of the large intestine that goes up is the ascending colon. There's a portion that comes across like this. You can see here that it's actually been pulled aside, but if you were to take this and rotate it counterclockwise, 90 degrees, you'd see that it would fit perfectly here. Okay, and you can see that on our models too, because this piece comes off. But this would sit here, just like that, for the transverse colon. And then this portion that goes down is the descending colon. Now you can see here, the line I like to draw, and I'll kind of explain the technicalities of this in a moment, but I like to draw the line for where the descending colon ends, essentially as if you were to take it across. It's where the ascending colon starts. So right there, that's where the descending colon will end. This portion here that actually brings the colon from the lateral or left side of the body back to the center is the sigmoid colon. Now, if we're asking for, especially in this area here where it gets a little fuzzy where it is, we're going to be asking for it pretty smack dab in the middle. So we're not going to be asking for really anything in this area because it's just kind of that gray area, you know what I mean? So descending, we're going to make it clear. Sigmoid colon, we're going to make it clear, okay? So I want you guys definitely to, like, when you're studying, focus on doing the identifications. Don't worry about how we're going to word questions, okay? We'll word them in a way that's guiding in order to make it fair, because we're not testing your knowledge of our diction that we use on exams, right? We're testing your knowledge of anatomy, so we'll keep that in mind when writing questions and when grading questions. So here's sigmoid colon, and then you can't really see it because the small intestine is blocking it on these boards, but the sigmoid colon actually comes up in an S shape, hence the name sigmoid, like that, and we'll actually see that in the cat, and then it drops down. Once it drops down, that's the rectum. So since we really can't see the upper portion of the rectum, we just put a sticker on this region right here for the rectum. Actually, I'm gonna see if I can't pull this up. There we go. Trying to get this a little higher so we can see it in the back. Alright, so here we have the rectum. After the rectum is the anal canal. So all of this area here that only has half of the structure on it, that's the anal canal. and then the anus we'd sticker at the very, very end of the digestive system. So we put a row of stickers right there. Now, the internal and external anal sphincters, you don't need to know internal versus external. You just will use it as the same ID chunk, okay? So if we pin these or sticker them, it's just internal/external anal sphincter. And if you look on either side of the anal canal, you'll see that there's a layer of muscle, or actually 2 layers of muscles specifically. Those are the internal and external anal sphincters. It's right there on that side, right there on that side. Alright, now the last 2 structures on page 12, the haustra and the tinea coli, are actually structures that we see on the large intestine itself. So if you look at the large intestine, you'll see it's essentially made up of all of these bumps. A single bump is called a haustra. And if you look on the front side of this, you'll see that there's kind of this line structure that goes all the way across it. Kind of looks like a tendon. Yeah. That's the tinea coli. So it's that strip that goes across all of the haustra. Okay, we're almost done. If you flip to page 13, I'm going to point out a few of these structures, but I'm actually for the